The speed at which people are departing the Trump administration, either involuntarily through firing, resigning, replacement, or the like, is breathtaking. It is even worse turmoil than we experienced in the first Trump administration, and we're only about 9 months, 10 months into this administration. Wait till I catalog for you the people that have hit the pavement in the Trump administration. I thought that hiring Susie Wiles, that Florida political operative, to be his chief of staff, and she seems to be keeping her job, was going to shut down the turnover. No, the velocity at which people are getting canned is head spinning. I'm going to cover it right here on Legal AF Saturday. It's a good time to take a plane up 5,000 feet and look down at the wreckage that is the Trump administration. Is anybody shocked? We've got a immature, and this is putting it mildly, we have an immature, incoherent, chaotic, scatterbrain president. And so he just does these loyalty tests, firing people after several weeks or a month in key positions and not worrying about the wreckage left behind. It makes us as a people to have this much turnover, this much lack of focus, institutional focus on things that matter to the American people. It makes us unsafe. It makes us unwell. It makes us insecure. It undermines our national security, our global security, our public health, and the homeland security, and the rest. Wait till I go through this list. I'm glad you're here. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF on Saturday, Labor Day weekend, and let's get to it. We just had Donald Trump fire an actual PhD doctor who knew what she was doing to head the Center for Disease Control under RFK Jr., Dr. Monterez, who's fighting hard to get her job back. But 4 other senior leaders walked out with her, leaving us completely exposed and completely vulnerable to the next pandemic and any other health crisis. It's so bad in the walkout after 3 weeks, the firing of the CDC head after 3 weeks, that even senior GOP Republican leaders in Congress have pumped the brakes and told RFK Jr., don't hold another meeting about vaccines and immunizations and all of that. And if you have another meeting about it without these people present that were just fired or walked out the door, then everybody should ignore the guidelines. That's how bad it's gotten. But she's not the only one that got fired after 3 weeks. And these are Senate confirmed picks. And you remember Billy Long? Probably not, because he didn't last long. She called him Billy Short. Billy Long was the 1 month Internal Revenue Service Commissioner. 1 month, until he got into a fight with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who was trying to act like he was the head of the IRS. And then they kicked Billy Long upstairs to become, get this, the ambassador to Iceland. He's now been banished to Iceland by Trump. He's not the only one that got banished to an ambassador position. Does anybody? I'm just doing the roll call of the last 9 or 10 months in the Trump administration. Remember Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor, National Security Director, until he started to use, WhatsApp and Signal to talk about war plans, and it got leaked to a reporter. Remember that guy? Well, he's not there anymore. He got fired. He got kicked upstairs to become the ambassador to the United Nations. Better be careful in that position. That's the one that John Bolton occupied, who just had his house raided by the Trump administration. So be careful, you ambassadors, especially the ones to the UN. So we got Dr. Monterez, head of the CDC, Billy Long, head of the Internal Revenue Service, Mike Waltz, National Security. Again, I'm not doing like an inventory mid-term, 2 years into a 4-year term, or I'm doing this 9 months in. Now let's go to FEMA. Again, making us insecure, not secure. The acting head of FEMA, Cameron Hamilton, had the audacity to challenge why Pam Bondi, who ultimately runs it at Department of Justice, the steps she was taking to dismantle FEMA. Has anybody heard that? We're getting rid of FEMA, everybody. Donald Trump solved the national weather crisis. He solved natural disasters. We're not going to have them anymore. So you should thank Donald Trump. People in California, no more mudslides, no more earthquakes. Miami, South Florida, the Panhandle, no more hurricanes. Donald Trump's in charge. We're just going to get rid of FEMA. We'll get rid of the National Weather Service. So when Cameron Hamilton had the balls, thank you, for trying to protect FEMA from being cut up into small pieces and flushed down the toilet by Pam Bondi, what did Pam Bondi do? She wanted to polygraph him, do a lie detector on him. He's gone. Yeah. And then there's this other group, before we get to I'm not done. There's this other group that were on the chopping block, but they figured out a way to survive, which is to turn on other enemies of Donald Trump within the administration and go after them or outside the administration. So when Tulsi Gabbard was on thin ice with Donald Trump because she made a comment about being in Hiroshima where they dropped the bomb during World War II and how horrible and devastating nuclear war is, at the moment Donald Trump was bombing Iran for Israel, he didn't like that. He called her on the carpet and said, if you're campaigning to be the next president, do it from your own position, but not in my cabinet. She figured out a way to save her job going after Barack Obama. Right. Go after the Biden and Obama administration on behalf of Donald Trump. Now she salvaged her job. Pam Bondi, the same thing. Over the Epstein files, she was on her way out. And then she figured out, let me do all the other dirty work Donald Trump wants me to do in court, go after immigrants and migrants, take away their due process rights, go after Abrego Garcia, do all these disgusting, depraved, unethical things to save her job. So that's what's left in the Trump administration. They're eating their young, and Donald Trump, you either have a choice. You either eat your young, right, or you don't. It's like this show that I just saw with Ralph Fiennes, where he played that insane chef that, it was like this murderous meal and a meal of cannibals, and you either ate everything in front of you or you were shot to death. That's what's happening here. You either eat your young and attack who Donald Trump says, or you're going to be fired next. Let's keep going. So the head of FEMA, gone, right? Head of CDC, gone. Head of IRS, gone. Now let's move to Treasury. Michael Faulkender, who was the number 2 in the Treasury Department, made it 6 months. And then he pissed off Donald Trump because Donald Trump never trusted him, because he used to work with Steve Mnuchin, who was the Treasury Secretary under Donald Trump, which I don't really understand. And he blames Faulkender and Mnuchin for making him pick Jay Powell to be the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Didn't he know that when he confirmed him and appointed him to be the number 2 in Treasury? He just woke up to that Faulkender 6 years ago was involved with the Jay Powell selection? So he's gone. That's another one gone. The Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now we're going after the data keepers, the numbers people. She's gone because he didn't like the jobs numbers. Oh, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Agnostic, not political. The gold standard, platinum standard around the world to trust and rely upon for job numbers and other statistics that measure the economy. Trump's failing economy. I don't like the numbers. Fire the numbers. Fire the number keeper. She's gone. And he's trying to put a partisan hack, E.J. Antoni, who has no background in being a statistician or measuring the labor pool, but he is a Trump MAGA to the first degree, election denier and all of that. He's going to stick him in there, which means we can just ignore the Bureau of Labor Statistics giving us any proper data. All right. But I'm not done. He just appointed somebody new to the CDC. Get this, not a doctor, not a scientist, has no PhD in anything. He's an investor that worked with Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is the patron of J.D. Vance. He's an investment banker. His biggest claim to fame is he took down Gawker, who had published naked photos of Hulk Hogan. That's the guy, 1 degree separated, who is now the acting CDC director, setting policy, when RFK Jr. should be shown the door for making us sick again in America. But no, we get rid of a established, a person who has a degree in virology, immunology, the right kind of person to head to CDC. I'm not done. FBI. Dan Bongino gets sideways with Pam Bondi and Donald Trump, and Akash Patel's on a thin ice too. He doesn't get fired, but he gets a babysitter. So now we have 2 deputy directors of the FBI, bringing in this guy that's the Missouri Attorney General who was going to run for governor. He's now Dan Bongino's babysitter in the FBI. Again, I want to remind people that we are only 9 or 10 months into this administration. And this is the turmoil that Susie Wiles, as the chief of staff, is presiding over. Who wants to serve in this administration? First of all, they put 100,000 federal workers on the street, and more to come. It'll be up to 200,000 by the time this administration is over. 200,000. That'll just be out the door. And in addition to that, they're not hiring anybody to replace them on purpose. That's why the Department of Justice is down, like 40% of its personnel. Done. Treasury, down. Department of Defense, down. Anything that deals with the social safety net and the relationship between the federal government and the American people, gone. Halved. Secretary of State, State Department, halved. And not replaced. So the people that are there are gassed. They're out of breath. They're out of energy. They're just gassed. They just can't do the job. There's just too many levers of power to pull. I guess that's a good thing, ultimately. And no new leaders are coming in. They're all these crackpot business people. Donald Trump thinks he's putting together a board of directors for one of his failed companies again. So I'm going to continue to follow the turmoil which is the symptom for the diseased mind of Donald Trump here on Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button, and then come over to Legal AF Substack and do that as well. We got some great new reporting going on over there, including live reporting only on Legal AF Substack. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.